All right, next level baking is learning to mill or grind your own wheat berries. This is what I have in front of me. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm really excited to dive into what wheat berries are and why you should be including them in your diet, and to not be afraid of bread, because bread is life, right? And I say, let them eat bread. Like if I was a queen, let them eat bread. Anyways, so bread has been around forever, right? It is mentioned in the Bible so many times. Matthew says, give us our daily bread, and that is so true. I absolutely love bread, including it in all of my recipes. But this is learning how to mill and grind your own wheat berries is next level. So if you're not there yet, just put this information in your back pocket, and when you're ready, bring it out and do it, because there is, once you learn how to bake bread with the all-purpose flour, if you're doing sourdough or if you're just doing the yeast that's manufactured, you're going to want to keep going farther with that, because that loaf of bread that you're making at home is superior from what you can get at the store. What you can get at the store is basically garbage, and I would never recommend that. And I think bread is one of those items that everyone can make at home, no matter what level you're on. You're using a bread machine, you're doing sourdough, you're grinding your own wheat berries, you're using manufactured yeast, whatever it is, that is one item that you can take that power away from those companies with those crappy ingredients, and then that you can make that at home. So grinding your own wheat berries is going to be your next level. So if you're ready, let's talk about it, okay? So wheat berries, these cool little guys right here, this is what is on, you know, the stalks of the wheat and stuff like that. And this is what you can buy like this. And this is completely intact. There's nothing that's been stripped away from these wheat berries or anything like that. There's three major parts of the wheat berries itself. There's the bran, which is the protective outer layer that is high in fiber and B vitamins. And then there's the germ, and that's the seed, like that's inside. That is the new plant and the life force of the grain. The germ contains B vitamins, minerals, proteins, healthy oils, fatty acids, and is one of the most abundant food sources of vitamin E. Then you have the endosperm, the white flour portion of the milled grain that contains starch, protein, and very little vitamins and minerals. Guess what part that you get at the store that's already in your flour bags? It's the endosperm. It is the least amount of nutrients and value that these wonderful, cute little things provide. But there's a reason why they have done this, is because when you have to, for long-term, shelf storage, right? Think about, it's got to get from the farm to the big factories. The factories got to then mill it, and then they put it in bags, and then it sits on your grocery store shelf for how long? And they started this over 100 years ago. And this is the process that they do. They started that long time ago so that you could have shelf-stable, in your pantry, flour. And I understand how that happened, but that is a big mistake. So when they started doing that, they have taken apart and they give you the shelf-stable type of this product. But you're missing over 30, when they mill it, they take away 30 different types of nutrients, vitamins, and minerals and stuff like that. That's a lot of stuff that our body needs. That is what God intended. It is good for our gut. It's our immune system is all of our gut, right? And so if you don't have these things that you're intending, and then you're eating like the lesser part of something, that is not going to be any health benefit to you, and that's what causes a lot of different things that we're going to talk about. I'm actually going to quote some sources from the books itself. So you don't just have to take my word for it. I've got some books. I want you to do your own research on all the things, because you will, when you start diving into this, you'll be really excited and motivated to go ahead and start learning how to do your own berries. So the milling processes, they are evil. They want to fill their back pockets with lots of money. They take out the good stuff, and then they give you the bad stuff. And then they realized in the 1920s that a lot of sicknesses were happening because people were consuming a lot of bread, but it had absolutely no value to them at all, and it was making their gut sick and everything like that. So then they decided to enrich it. They put in about 4 different types of vitamins back into it. Remember, they took out about 30. They only added 4 back in to enrich it. Manufactured type of vitamins and nutrients they put back in it. So you're still missing out on a whole host of things just so you can have it shelf stable and easy for your pantry. So that's a little bit about why or how this process has happened to us from all this different time. And you want to go back to what, I mean, bread has been around forever, like I said, but just think about, you know, my mom named me after Lauren Goes Wilder, right? So I always refer back to that day. You know, what was Ma doing, right? She wasn't, they had their own wheat berries, and they did stuff, and they soaked them, and they did sourdough, and they did all kinds of stuff that they didn't even know they were doing that was so healthy and beneficial for them. So we always have to go back and look, pre-industrialized revolution, to see what were they doing. That's kind of what I want to go ahead and do. So let me read from this book, Back to Eden, which is, I'm not saying I agree with everything in all these books, but these are really great resources to have on your library. And I'll put links to them down below if you're interested in reading them by yourself, because they are pretty good reads. So The Importance of Bread by Back to Eden. Bread is the most important health food. There's more religion in a loaf of good bread than many think. Properly baked bread made from the right material, whole grain flours, has been the staff of life from the earliest Bible times, and has always been one of the principal foods that God gave to man, but it has indeed been made the staff of death by the modern invention of milling, just like what we talked about, how they have taken out the nutrients just to make it shelf stable. God never intended that wheat and other grains should be separated into their different parts, presented to the people as a wonderful invention, and then sold for a big price. You actually, when you get into it, wheat berries are very economical. You usually get them in bigger types of bags, so it seems like, whoa, that's a lot for wheat berries. What am I going to do with all this? You will end up using actually quite a bit of wheat berries that you won't have a problem or question what that is about. So, let's talk about, well, here's Nourishing Traditions. I'm just trying to give you some more information to go ahead and dive deeper into this wheat berry grinding, milling type of world that's very fascinating, and then that's when bread truly becomes good for you and your gut, is when you are taking it from, it's a whole food, whole grains, that's what they call it. It's not whole grains that's already been milled in the store and the bread says it's made out of whole grains. That's not it. This right here is a whole grain, and this is what the bread of life is all about. So, Nourishing Traditions, Sally Fallon Morrell right here. She says, while our ancestors ate whole grains, they did not consume them as presented in our modern cookbooks, in the form of quick rise breads, granolas, and other hastily prepared casseroles and concoctions. Our ancestors and virtually all pre-industrialized people soaked or fermented their grains before making them into porridge, breads, cakes, and casseroles. So here's a little science stuff on the grains, and I'm going to read from the book instead of just pretending like I can spout this off verbatim or like I'm a scientist, because I'm not. I'm a mom. I homeschool my kids. I homestead. I do research. I intuitively know what is right or wrong, and I do a little bit of research, and I like to present it for you. So yes, I am reading it from a book, but it is very authentic as well. So all grains contain phytic acid, and that's why we do the sourdough, because it breaks down the phytic acid so that our bodies can go ahead and absorb the actual nutrients and stuff that's in the flours. That is the outer layer, or bran, which is what they remove in the milling process. Untreated phytic acid can combine with calcium, magnesium, copper, iron, and especially zinc in the intestinal tract and block their absorption. This is why a diet high in unfermented whole grains may lead to serious mineral deficiencies and bone loss. So soaking allows enzymes, lactobacilli, and other helpful organisms to break down and neutralize the phytic acid. So that's when it becomes good for us, is when it's been broken down, soaked, even overnight. Even if you soaked these overnight and didn't do sourdough, that is still going to be helpful. So scientists have learned that the proteins in grains, especially gluten, are very difficult to digest. I think most of us probably know that. A diet high in unfermented whole grains, particularly high gluten grains like wheat, puts an enormous strain on the whole digestive mechanism. When the mechanism breaks down with age or overuse, the results take form in allergies, celiac disease, mental illness, chronic indigestion, and candida overgrowth. So that's why there's probably why we see so much gluten-free sensitivities and gluten-free diets and stuff like that, it's too much. It's going too far. And if we can go back again to Lauren Goes Wild and prior to that, think about all, how many years we've been around, and go back to exactly what they've been doing as much as we can in the modern world. That's when we're going to be better. So soaking, fermenting, just like sourdough, using whole grains is going to be so much better for your body, again, because if it's broken down some stuff, and then your body can go ahead and absorb the good stuff within these cute little guys, then that's so much better for us. And I've talked about that so many times. There was a good article in Homestead Living where I kind of pulled the bran, germ, and endosperm descriptions from. It was cute. I mean, it's nice and little, so I pulled that. I really like their magazines. They have great photos and little articles in there. And so I subscribe to them and I enjoy them. So that's where I pulled some of the information from. So now let's talk about, okay, so now maybe I've convinced you that, yeah, I need to start milling my own grains. Now what's the next step? So we need to buy our grains. There's lots of grains out there. I'm always just going to recommend organic. The best place that I have found for cost-wise is AZURE Standard. There are other places out there that for sure that are selling organic wheat berries, but the cost is so expensive because typically you can get them from AZURE Standard for like 5-pound bags, 10, 25, and 50-pound bags. So the shipping cost for the amount of wheat berries that I want is astronomical. So I do AZURE Standard, which I run a drop in northern Michigan, and you just meet once a month, and it's kind of a process. I'll link to that. But I really like using them because it is the best price. It is very affordable, and it ends up being a really good price compared to just buying all-purpose organic flour from, actually like King Arthur organic flour from like a Meijer or Walmart is pretty darn expensive per bag. This is extremely economical compared to it. Of course, you have to buy a miller as well, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I like AZURE Standard, so I tend to buy all my wheat berries from them. I buy them in the 50-pound bags. If you are new to this and you're not sure if you're going to stick with it, try a smaller amount of wheat berries, and you may want to do some different types out there to see what you like best. My personal best is the hard red wheat berries. It has a depth of flavor, like a nutty flavor to it, that I really, really enjoy, giving a nice flavorful bread. And then they're compared to the white hard wheat berries. So there are red and white, spring and winter. Spring and winter is only saying when the wheat was actually planted. So it doesn't really matter if it's a spring or a winter to me. It doesn't matter to me. Red and white offers the different flavors to me. They're both hard berries. Hard is what you're going to want to use for your breads and stuff like that. There are soft wheat berries as well, and there's soft white and soft red. The soft ones are going to be for your pastries, your cakes, your sweets, and stuff like that. I use a lot more of the hard berries because I typically stay away from sugar and sweets and stuff like that unless it's a special occasion. So I do a lot of red berries. So we've got the berries now. Let's see where we're going to buy them from, AZURE Standard or wherever you decide to. Organic's a great choice. Now you get this 50-pound bag. What do you do with this 50-pound bag? Well, honestly, it won't last as long as you think. But if you decide to get a couple of them, or if you're just not baking bread as much as you thought, this is how I originally store it. These are stored like this right here, and then I can scoop them out and use them in my miller here. And if we go for long term, well, this is like a short term. This is like initially storage. Short-term storage would be a food saver vacuum sealer type of bag like this. These will last quite some time in here. And then you can also go ahead and do for long-term storage. You could do Mylar bags. Do Mylar bags with the oxygen absorbers, and those have a shelf expectancy of 25 years. So you will be milling well into your ages, right? So you can buy Mylar bags and the oxygen absorbers for a long-term storage if you'd like to do that. This is what I use initially. These are, I would say, they're not, I put, so I get a 50-pound bag. Let me lay it down for you. I get a 50-pound bag. I put some in here just so I can have them out and easy to go. The rest of it will go into a 5-gallon bucket with a gamma seal lid, which keeps out a lot of oxygen and bugs and stuff like that. So that's a really good suggestion to do that. When I buy a couple 50-pound bags, or I feel like I just want someone was on sale, or I feel like just having bread until my 90s, I go ahead and then do the vacuum seal and then the Mylar bags as well, and then put them in totes. So that's some long-term storage and stuff like that for you as well. But you do not have to have them in long-term storage. Those are just options for those people who are going, what do I do with all these wheat berries? But you don't have to. So I like using the wheat berries. And then I use a Mockmill 100. This is a stone-on-stone grinder. So when you put it in the top just like this. I'll link a video to it that just shows it very quickly. You put them in here, you turn it on, you want it running, and then you drop your wheat berries in here, and then you have 10 different scales, from 1 being the smallest, finest, up to 10, which would be a little bit thicker. And you just do it like this, drop them in, and it spouts out here. And it's really easy. It is very loud. Do not think you can get up at 5 a.m. when the rest of everyone is sleeping and turn this bad boy on, or you will have angry people, right? No one wants to get up at 5 a.m., right? So I use a Mockmill 100. When I bought this a couple years ago, my research decided that this would be a really good one because it's a stone-on-stone grinder. There's impact ones, and I believe that the impact ones maybe heat up the flour a little bit as it's going through. I decided to go with the stone-on-stone. There's lots of different kinds out there. There's a NutriMill probably is another good one. I think that's an impact. I like the Mockmill 100, hands down. It works great. Everything is very, very fine and easy. You can also grind up corn in here to make your own, like, corn breads and stuff like that. I buy our organic corn from AZURE Standard, and I run it through there. Then I have my own cornmeal and stuff like that. You can also buy, I buy organic brown sweet rice from them as well, and I grind it up, and then I have rice flour. Again, it ends up being so much more economical of being able to do this by yourself instead of buying the pre-ground stuff, because they've got you in the market, right? They think you want it, and then they hike up the price, it's expensive, and then you lose all the nutrients and qualities, especially in the wheat berries. So now let's talk about, so we bought it, we ground it, now what do? I store it back in a container like this, and I grind once to twice a week, and then you want to store this in your fridge, just so it can keep the nutrients higher value like that. Because once you cut something like a lettuce head or any of your vegetables, or you break this down, it starts to lose its nutrients. And there's oils in here which could turn it rancid. I don't know what the time frame is on when it turns rancid. I think it's a little bit longer than like a couple of days. I'm not worried about it. But I store the flour into the fridge, and I use that. Or you can mill it on demand, literally. Like, hey, I'm making, mill it, make it. Mill it, make it. It's up to you. It's really loud though, so be careful with that. So I will store the initial flour in the fridge, and then just mill once or twice a week when I need it. Now let's talk about baking with it. Now, baking with whole grains is a whole different ball game, and I've been doing with my recipes are usually about 2/3 whole grains that I've just milled, and then 1/3 like an all-purpose white flour, organic. And just because I like it a little bit lighter and fluffier, and sometimes it can get a little intense with the you know, like whole wheat, right? It's a little bit darker, so I'm slowly going towards, like, it used to be 1/3, now it's 2/3, so hopefully I'll eventually just go to all of this. But everything is a process, you know, as you guys know as well. So so that's my recipe, usually 2/3 and then 1/3 of the other stuff. This, when you are measuring out a cup of the actual flour, it's usually not, so your recipe calls for a cup of all-purpose flour. You're going to actually use a little bit, a couple tablespoons less of the milled flour, because it has the ability to absorb a lot of liquid. So you have to pay attention to when you're actually making stuff. So what I do is pour all my ingredients in my KitchenAid mixer, because I'm lazy. I'm going to use that kneader instead of me having to hand do it. And then, so I pour it in, turn it on so it kind of mixes it all together for like a minute. And then I turn it off, I walk away, and I come back 10-15 minutes. And then I can kind of determine, or turn it back on, I kind of can determine, do I need to add another tablespoon of flour, or do I need to add a little bit more of water? Because this may have absorbed a lot of the water where it's too much, too dry, or maybe I just need to add another tablespoon of flour and then kind of go back and forth. So that's kind of when you start to learn how to work with dough and how that dough should be looking. So like a bread dough, in the end, when it's doing its kneading, should be away from the bowl itself and then onto the dough hook, as you know, hanging onto the dough hook as it's doing its kneading. If it's something like a Hawaiian roll or a butter roll or something like that, those rolls that you want a little light and fluffy, that's going to be a lot more stickier, where it's not hanging like a clump onto the dough hook. So that's just kind of things where you start to learn, the more you bake with stuff, what the hydration level should be, and then stuff like that, because it is different than working with all white flour. Now, when I work with all white flour, I'm like, what is this stuff? I can't even figure it out sometimes. So I really have gotten a lot used to using wheat berries and stuff like that. So you will too, if you decide to choose this adventure, this path in this game of life, right? So that's kind of how I do it. So you want to it's called autolyzing. You just letting the grains soak up the liquid and then determine, do I need to add a tablespoon of the water or a tablespoon of flour? And then you go ahead and prepare your, finish your recipe with the kneading and then rising and baking and stuff like that. So I think I covered everything that I wanted to. That's baking. Yeah, so I think that's good. So that is wheat berries in a nutshell, in a berry shell, in a grain, whatever you want to call it. So I hope you learned something today, inspired you to go out and learn more and do some research on what kind of berries you like, what kind of grinder that you would like to do. I'll put links for all the stuff that I recommend down below. Some are going to be affiliate links, so if you click through those links and sign up, that really helps me out. So make sure to like and comment and share this video if you found this at all helpful, and it just helps encourage me, keep plugging along, and I appreciate you guys being here and listening to me ramble on about the old awesome wheat berries. I mean, they're just so cool. So I'll see you guys later.